entrepreneur, juggling it all and talking about topics while on the go. Hi, I'm Lisa Waldron, and this is GO10LISA Podcast. Are you ready to listen to the best podcast that's real, inspiring, and sometimes cringe? Okay, get ready, get comfy, and go! Hello everyone, and this is On the Go segment. So this is what happened. So I don't know if you remember the first episode of season 24. I was talking about Cat Williams, the recap of his viral interview with Club Shay Shay. So in my podcast, GO10LISA Podcast, I was asking the question, what does Cat Williams' chain, what is his chain about? Does anybody know? So guess what? He must have heard me, because he did another podcast with Joe Rogan on YouTube. And he did another podcast episode, but this time the host is Joe Rogan. I think it's like his third or fourth YouTube podcast video this year. But it's the second one to reach high numbers as well. So in between that long, I think this one was like 3 hours, and I did watch the whole thing, but it was interesting. But in that particular podcast episode, he said, oh, by the way, and then he started to talk about his chain. And I was like, thank you. As I'm watching it, I'm like, thank you, because I'm like, I asked the question, what's on his chain, And he's like, oh, it's like a time. Let me get the right verbiage here because I have it here. It's Cat Williams' chain is a time-keeping compass. He designed himself. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's a time capsule, but it looks like it has the letters woke on it. It's just interesting how he designed it, like a circle shape. It's very, very interesting, and it's very creative. Take a look at it the next time. So I just wanted to share that part of it. Like, yeah, you heard me ask the questions, or maybe other people were asking the same questions. Like, what's on his chain? What does his chain mean? Like, what are the letters on there? It's a time-keeping capsule. I was like, oh, a time-keeping compass, rather. A compass. Interesting. I was like, wow. So in case you are listening to me and you want to know what a compass means, I'm typing it in to tell you. Oh, let's see here. Of course, when I type in anything, it wants to put in its own thing. But compass is an instrument containing a magnetized pointer which shows the direction of magnetic north and bearings from it. So it's an instrument for drawing circles and arcs and measuring distances between points, consisting of two arms linked by the movable joint. So this is all scientific, guys. So yeah, so I was like, thank you for answering one of my questions. Thank you. Now on to today's episode. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Lisa Waldron, and this is Season 24, Episode 6, titled Age Gap in Relationships. Age gap is the difference in age between people, especially in a relationship, as I'll discuss today. So if I'm 25 years old and my man is 35, there's a 10-year age gap difference. It's a difference in the age. And I wanted to talk about this for a while, because I have a group of people that I've outlined that I'm going to talk about today on my list. And I wanted to do a video on one of them, but I kept debating it. And I was just like, this is a perfect segue into me talking about them in a positive way to highlight their relationship. But let's get started, So when you because this is a big thing now, all of a sudden, this is a big thing now. Like, people are making movies of it. There are more and more people coming out about it. Even though I'm only going to highlight a few people in my episode today, trust me, I know that there are millions of people out there throughout the years that have had a age gap difference. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because um, I want to talk about it because it's like, it is a thing. And as women, as men, what do you think about? What do you think about when you have a big age gap? What's the highest age gap you would do? Things like that. And so let's get started. So, even though I have a few people listed here, I think this is before my time, but I love this music. When I hear this music, I think about my son's father and I relationship. Don't ask me why. You'll know why if you know our story, but this is just me in my head. He probably doesn't even know I know about this. He doesn't know that I'm relating this song to our relationship or whatever. But this is one of the songs. If you hear the first opening bars, which I love, when they make music back then, oh my gosh, they're so creative, so creative. So anyway, this is by Luther Ingram. Once I play the first couple of tunes, you know. If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. Woo! So the reason why I brought up that song, and now I'm going to have that song in my head, is because I said this before my time. Yes, because of the song. I don't know what year the song was made, but I know it's probably before my time because, I am young. But anyway, also because there was a show back, what is it called? The Graduate, with the lady, one of the main ladies in the show was having an affair with her daughter's boyfriend. And they had a secret relationship, and then it came came out, and then it disrupted everyone that was involved, the parents, the boyfriend parents, the girlfriend. And at the end of the movie, he still loved the daughter, and I won't give away the ending, but anyway, how do you move on from that? You know what I mean? But even in that movie, the mother of the girl was older. The guy just graduated high school or something like that. So there was a big age gap. But the mother was like a vibrant woman. I want to say vibrant, but yeah, she was vibrant. Like she was very confident in herself, and she knew what she wanted. And then they would meet at hotels and meet wherever. And it just shows from his perspective, like what he had to go through to juggle or whatever. So that's just one aspect of it. So when I hear that song, I think about that movie because I watched it. They play old time movies now and then. But when you hear age gap and you think about age gap in relationships, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Who comes to your mind? So I'm going to tell you that when I was younger, the first person I heard of that had a big age gap, and I'll tell you who in a second, because I want to bring you back to, I grew up with the understanding or mentality, or I don't know, I just kind of, my maternal grandparents were married for a very long time until, my grandmother passed away first, and then years later my grandfather. But they were married for a very, very, very long time. And she married him when she was like young also, like I want to say 19 to 21, in between that age time. And she was the only biological child of her parents, and they did adopt another young lady, which I think was one of the father brother's kids, or somebody that they wanted to help out or something like that. But anyway, our family know the story, so I won't get into details in that because, anybody that comes from a particular area and wants to verify that they're part of our family, they have to tell us the exact story. So I won't move on. I'll move on. But anyway, so my maternal grandparents were 13 years, whereas 13 years age gap where my grandfather was older than my grandmother. And I think I kind of like had it in my mind growing up that the guy is always supposed to be older. I never heard of anyone as far as a woman being older than the guy. Even if they were, no one told me, or maybe I wasn't interested at the time because I was busy living life, right? So now I just got a phone call that just interrupted my podcast. So there's going to be segments to this podcast now. So I have to put it on airplane mode because I'm doing it from my phone because it's easier to do it today from my phone because that's where I am. I'm in a different I'm in a different location in my house. But anyway, so the first person that I heard of that had a huge age gap that everyone was talking about, and this time it was the reverse. It's actually a woman. No, it's the same thing. The man is older. The man is older and the woman is way, way, way younger. And once I say the name, if you know, then go tell somebody. The first person I heard about was Anna Nicole Smith. And she was married to this older guy. And they are going to be the only Caucasian people that I have on my list today. But she beats the cake. She's now deceased. May her soul rest in peace. But her story was, I don't want to say tragic, but she loved an older billionaire guy, right? And their age gap was 63 years. Now, think about this. 63, let me do the math on my phone because if I'm thinking about it, I probably will get the numbers wrong. And then you guys will probably say, like, can you add, Lisa? Yeah, I can add. All right, so let's say she's 21 and 63. Okay, so he was probably I think he was in his 80s, like 84 when she was 21. So you're probably saying, what's an 84-year? I think he's deceased now, but also, may his soul rest in peace too. But you're probably thinking, what's an 84-year-old man doing with a 21-year-old woman? I think that was the question. And a lot of people called her gold digger. A lot of people, it doesn't matter what age. You can be the same age. You can be 1 year, 2 year, whatever. If you have money, they're always going to think something. You know what I mean? So yeah. So that was the first case or first relationship that I heard of where there was a huge age gap. And from the list of people I'm going to be talking about today, they beat the cake, 63 years. The rest that I'm going to talk about, they're high up in numbers as well. You know what I mean? But no one, I think, come close to 63 years age difference. 63. And I'm trying to imagine myself as a 21-year-old woman, and if I want to get with a 84-year-old man. First of all, I'm very sensitive, meaning that I'll probably be looking at him like he's my grandfather or great grandfather or something, and I couldn't do it. So for me, guys, I have a problem even dating a guy that's younger than me. I don't know what it is. It's just something in my head that things make me think that maybe it's a child or something. And I tried. I don't care how cute the guy was. There was only 2 occasions that I kind of like made an exception. One of the guys, we were in New York at the time. We were growing up in New York, and the guy was one of our friends. We had a group of friends. We all hanged out at the church or whatever. All the guys tried to talk to all the girls, and we were all good friends or whatever. And we were like, no. And here I go. Here I go and break the rule. Not that there was a rule. It's like you know what I'm talking about. And it was like, oh, he's cute and he likes me. And oh gosh, he was the best kisser ever. Because I don't like tongue kissing, but I do it if I have to. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of French kissing, tongue kissing or whatever. But TMI, but with him, oh my goodness, I was just like, wow. And up to this day, I remember we were kissing at one of my friend's house by her back gate, and her father came and caught us, and then all of our friends were surprised. You know what I mean? I still follow him on Facebook. We're all good friends still. But the point is that it was hard for me. I had to end up breaking it off with him because I couldn't see it. It could have gone further, guys, but it was just something where I couldn't. I don't know if it's because of that friendship that seemed so innocent and so young. I don't know what it was, but I just couldn't move forward. And then in my 20s, like right around after I had my son and whatever, and his father and I were not together, there was a cute Spanish guy, and he must have been 5 or 7 years younger. And I'm telling you, I'm like, oh my gosh, he seems so mature. That is the key, guys. He seemed so mature for his age that I was willing to overlook it. But the guy was a player, you know what I mean? And even the security guy was like, oh, he's dated like half the Spanish girls. I was just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, no. But he was a kind of professional, kind of cute. He'll flirt with you, test the waters. Gosh, he was so handsome. But his mentality, his professionalism, to some degree, I was willing to overlook it. But because he was in a relationship and then having relations with other women at the workplace, I was just like, heck no, so no. So it's just me, guys. I prefer the guy to be older. But then I'm going to talk about myself more and say that, because I'm on the list also of who I'm going to talk about, and to say that I'll give you my son's father, our relationship. He's like 10, 11 years older than me, right? But there's something about the guys when they're older. And especially, people have to take into account their nationality. My son's father is Chinese Jamaican. I am Jamaican. We're both Jamaicans. Let's put it like that, right? But there's something about Jamaican men. I don't know what it is. Forgive me. I'm not categorizing all of them. I am to some degree, but it's just something about them when they get older, or something about them when they're older. Mine was just 10, 11 years. I'm going to talk about some others, but the point is that I kind of find them to be stuck in their ways. It's very, very hard to change a Jamaican man. I'm just talking from the culture I know, right? It's very, very hard. And it comes back down to maturity level. It comes back down to a whole bunch of things, right? And we're going to talk about more of that also. But they're nice. Let me tell you something, which I've always said. Every Jamaican man can cook, clean, and whatever, right? They just choose whether or not they want to when they're in a relationship or whatever the case may be. So it depends, because I've heard stories, I've seen stories in the news where men get possessive when they're in relationship to the point that they won't let you go, then it becomes dangerous, you know what I mean? And thankfully not all of them are like that, but they are a few, just like in any race, right? So I say all of this to say that it's not easy, and it depends on what age you meet them at. I met my son's father when I was in my 30s. If I had, no, what am I talking about? No, wrong. He was in his 30s. I was in my 20s. I had it backwards there for a second. I was in my 20s and he was in his 30s, right? And it was a fast, hot relationship or whatever. And oh my God, it was just all over the place. When I say all over the place, all over the place. And basically, when I look at now Now he's in a different place in his life and whatever. But even by visiting him, I was with him recently. If you know, watch my vlogs on YouTube. And I was with him with his mother in Jamaica. And there were just certain little things that he would do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not that serious. So it all depends on your mature level. It depends on where you are mentally. So, for example, they have an Airbnb, right? So when a guest leaves, you have to clean the room, right? So apparently the rugs were being washed. And I was like, another guest was coming in. So, I'm helping out, whatever. And I'm like, it's okay that we don't have another rug. But oh no, he wanted to have the rug. Oh no, we have to have the rug. The rug has to be by the bed. And I'm like, it's not that serious. But I think he's the kind of person where he's just stuck on tradition to some degree, and I'm stuck on tradition to some degree. But some things like a rug being by the bedside, it's not that important. But he wanted the hospitality, and I totally get it. But I think the guests would have been fine if they went the first night without a rug on the floor. But it's just certain things like that. And then plus, with my son's father, he's diabetic. So there is the food aspect. He has to have a certain dietary restrictions, whereas I have other dietary restrictions as well. So it's so many things. It's like my career is thriving. What are you doing? It's so many levels. It's so many levels to think about. So it's not just about the relationship. It's not just about you're hot and heavy for sex or whatever it may be. You have to think deep, deep, deep. Is this the person I want to spend the rest of my life with? And then when you make up your mind and you want to spend the rest of your life with that person, you have to have communications. You have to open up your mouth as a woman and as a man and tell each other what it is that you want. And all of this should have been discussed before you get together. And the reason why I'm going to talk about it is because there is a movie apparently coming out with Anne Hathaway that has to do with, apparently she is the older woman and he's the younger guy. So then people are talking about the movie. I haven't seen the movie. I don't even know if it's really out yet or they're just a preview of it. But the second person on my list that after Anna Nicole was, or maybe Terry McMillan was before Anna, but I think Anna was before. But anyway, they're right around the same time, was you heard that movie, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, right? It's based off true events by the author, Terry McMillan. She went to Jamaica. She is American, African-American woman who went to Jamaica, I guess around the time of her 40s. For 40s for a man, they would say around mid 40s for a man, they would say that they're going through a midlife crisis, right? Which typically they do. I would say that for a woman in her 40s, I think that she is just beginning to find herself. That's why I think a couple of years ago, they were saying the 40s is now the new 20s or something, you know? But she went to Jamaica and then she was staying at a hotel. She had her friends there. And then she met this guy at the hotel, near the hotel. He was cooking or whatever he was doing. They ended up having a relationship. He ended up going to the States. They got married and now they're divorced. Not now, but they have been divorced for years. And she was very angry about it. Now, their age gap was 24 years. They had a 24 years where he was the junior. She was older and he was younger. 24 years age gap. Now, for a young Jamaican man, I can just imagine, Jamaican guys, young boys, whether it's Jamaican or whatever, they're all about the cars, There's a few that are in a professional field around young 20s, early 20s. My son thinks that he is very mature. My son has been in relationship with girls, in his own age, and he's had a few older. My son's father had told me his first serious relationship, or the first woman he had sexual relationship with, she was older. And you want to hear something even weirder? Was that same woman, she and I worked together years later. I was talking about her and something, and he recognized the name, and he's like, "Oh my God, I know that woman." It just tell you that the world is small, people. It's a small world. So that was the second person that I've heard of in my time as far as age gap, and that didn't go well, because especially when it came down to their divorce and everything, it was not a happy ending. And I think that was the first time that actually blew up in the African American. Like I said, there could have been others. I am just not aware of it, or maybe I didn't pay attention to it or whatever. But for me, what stood out for me was Anna Nicole and her relationship with that 63-year age gap, Terry McMillan, and her 24-year age gap with her ex-husband, right? So I don't know all the dynamics. Only those two know. Everybody in their own relationship knows what truly, truly, truly went down. You know what I mean? But like I said, these are things that you're going to have to discuss with your mate. And what is probably not helping all of these relationships is the outside noise. The outside noise of people voicing their opinions. And you have to remember that there isn't a lot of people in situations like that. So people are watching, people are like giving their opinion, people are trying to tell you what to do. You know what I mean? I'm probably assuming that, he wanted to do his career. She was already high up in her career. She already had a kid. Maybe he wanted a kid. And that's another thing that I have on my list, people, is situations and things we're going to talk about from a man's perspective and from a woman's perspective. So today I was talking to a young lady, and she was just spilling the beans about her life and everything. And we were just having a good talk because I was somewhere, and then I just... no, she struck up a conversation with me and then was talking about everything, and about her getting a car, and I wish her all the best, and her getting, through, and all the struggles that she had to go through. And basically she was telling me that she's technically still married, and that her husband, I think the way she was talking, it was like they're technically still married. And at that point, I was like, I should have taken out my phone and recorded the conversation and asked her to record the conversation for my podcast. But we were already deep in, because I didn't know she was going to talk so much about the situation, which was perfect. But I took notes to say that in my head mentally, to tell you guys that that woman has gone through so much. And here she is in a relationship with a man she's married to, but they're not living together. And then she said something about she was in jail, he was in jail. Oh my gosh, it just gets so deep. But I had to like encourage her, because based on what she was telling me, because there's always three sides to the story: his, hers, and the truth, right? And then somewhere in between all of that is the truth, right? And so I'm only hearing her side, but from what she was telling me, she's done so much for this man. This man was older. He's a truck driver. And basically, he would come in, and she did give him a compliment to say that he was the best cook, the best chef. He cooks better than her. But he would degrade her. And she said that he was very controlling. And I kind of got the impression that he was very abusive also. But anyway, after she would get the dishes, he would walk in back of her and use his index finger to like wipe across the counter to see if it was clean. And I'm looking at her, and sometimes I don't know when to, sometimes I need to keep quiet, but sometimes things just boil, to get me frustrated to the point that I have to say, what? I said, why would he do that? That's what I said. I said, why would he do that? I said, you're not in a hospital. You're not in prison. You're not, because she even said that she felt like she was in prison because this man is in back of her checking everything. And this is her husband. And he's older. And I had to encourage this young woman to say to her, you're a strong woman. You're very kind, but that's not your issue. It's his issue. And I think sometimes like that, we have to encourage other women, because I said to her, whatever he's going through, that's his issue. But for some reason, he's putting you down. I don't know the reason why. Maybe because he sensed that you are a survivor. Maybe because he sensed that you're a strong woman. But I want you to know that you are a strong woman and you will make it. I had to encourage this young lady. I was just like, oh my goodness. But because there are kids involved and because he's like using the kids, oh my gosh, it just gets deeper and deeper. But I just want to touch, I don't want to say all of it because I have other people to discuss in this episode. But I was just like, you don't know what a person is going through. But for her age gap, different, because she said she didn't tell me how big of an age gap, but she said he was up there. It was a controlling factor. And I was like, perfect timing for my podcast, because that's my subject, whatever. So I was just like, oh my goodness, poor thing, But also, before I go any further, you're listening to GO10LISA Podcast with Lisa Waldron, where you can find a new episode each week by typing in GO, the number 10, followed by LISA. GO10LISA is all one word. Type it in, see my pink hair, go on any podcast app, and GO10LISA Podcast is also available on YouTube channel as well. Thank you for sharing, thank you for listening, and thank you for subscribing. So guys, I don't know if you remember, there was a love show. Like, there was this guy and his mom was a co-host. I forgot the name of the show, but he was Hispanic. He's Hispanic, and the mom also. And it was a love connection show. The mother was very well in shape, very well put together, and so was her handsome son. They both were married, right? But the mother was married to a younger guy. And it was a kind of show where they were setting up couples. Like the couples had to stay, the women stayed in one area. It's called Love Something. Oh my gosh. If anybody knows, please comment. But I will never forget one episode. They were asking the mother. I'm sipping my tea as I'm talking. Okay. And it just stuck in my head where I remember it. And she said, even though she has her son, which is the one that's hosting the show, she is now married to a younger guy. However, they don't have kids. They discussed it before they got married, and everybody was okay with it. They've been happily married. Years later, I found out that they got divorced. I don't know what the reason was or whatever, but they got divorced. But when you look at their love and their relationship, it gave you hope to know that here it is, a woman who's probably was in her 40s or 50s at the time, was dating someone probably in their 30s or early 40s, right around her son's age or maybe a little bit more. And the son approved, everybody approved. And like I said, there are relationships out there that work. There are relationships out there that I don't know about and not talking about, but there's some that actually work and there's some that don't work, you know what I mean? But she was another person where it was the woman was the older person and the husband was younger. The next two people, I talked about my maternal grandmother. Yeah, the next two people I'm going to talk about are YouTubers. And I'll start with the Bonics. So the Bonics are on YouTube, And they have an age gap as well, where the guy is Jamaican and the lady is American. And they have a 21-year age gap. And they were very strategic as far as not telling their followers their age gap until when they were supposed to appear on the Tamron Hall talk show. That's when they revealed it, because of course Tamron would have asked them anyway, what's the age gap, or they had to disclose that anyway. But that's their business as far as what their reasons were. But I think it worked for them as far as they didn't broadcast it. They built up their audience for them to get to know them, and basically, he's a truck driver and she works a government job, and she has a daughter that's similar in name to her husband and similar in age to her husband, somewhere around that age group as well, right? And she, like Terry McMillan, went on vacation in Jamaica. Why can't I go to Jamaica and meet a young man? I have met, there's some handsome people, in Jamaica, in case you want to go there, or in any island. It depends on. And she went there on vacation with her friend, and then she, at some beach area, she met her husband. And like I said, it all boils down to communication. It all boils down. She had a friend, and from what I can understand, she and her friend is no longer talking. Some of it may be based off jealousy. I don't know what the situation is, but it's like you have to have people in your corner that's going to be for you and for your relationship. Like I've mentioned before, a lot of it is noise. A lot of it is because at the end of the day, it's your relationship. At the end of the day, you're sleeping with that person. You're cooking for that person. You're talking about health with that person. All sorts of things with that person. Nobody else lives with you guys. So who cares? Whose opinion? Other people's. It shouldn't matter if it's your relationship. You know what I mean? As long as you and him or him and her are on the same page and you're moving in one direction, then it should be fine. But yeah, they're on YouTube and they are growing their community as far as showing the world their relationship, what they go through. It seems to me that they have some kind of understanding as far as, work-wise, as far as what their goals are, and, expectations. Because if you don't discuss things, then you will be disappointed. You know what I mean? I think I'll talk about some things that some women are struggling with, especially if the woman is older than the guy. And so I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But they are a YouTube couple that is on YouTube, the Bonics, that they have a 21-year age gap. And last but not least on my list, we all know them, some of the people know them, is Alicia, Kim, and Boo. So I think her husband's name is Michael, but they refer to him as Boo, right? And they have a 37-year age gap. So in this age gap, she is the younger one and he is the older one. And remember what I said before, I just kind of have this feeling that Jamaican older men are just stuck in their ways and routine. And if anybody else can relate, let me know. I guess the younger guys have it as well. But I think the younger guys are more about their dreams and aspirations and what they want, with Tarek McMillan and her husband, with the Bonics, with whoever else have a younger husband. I think from a younger guy's point of view, they are looking like, how can they set up their life? Whereas the woman, let's talk about Alicia Kim. It looks like Alicia, but it's Alicia Kim and her husband. So they met. Okay, I'm just going to run down this story real quick because to the point that At times, I'm just like, oh my goodness, really? But anyway, they met. Apparently, what happened is that the husband was in Jamaica with some friends, and Alicia's mother and cousin was in a car dropping off their friend, and Boo is the husband's, we just refer to the husband as Boo, in a car. And then Boo made a statement and said, you don't know any young woman I can get with, you don't know any nice young lady or something like that. So the mother decided to tell him about her daughter, Alicia. Now, I have a little problem with that, people. That's the only problem I have. I kind of feel like she sold her daughter out. That's just me. That's just me. Because if I was the mother, I would have looked at it like, well, you see me in the car, you see the cousin, and you didn't think none of us was pretty. That's just me, guys, or I would have said it to him. But I don't know. I've discussed this with my own mother. Like, what would you have done if somebody said that to you? Would you even think about us as your daughters to refer to the man? I don't know. I don't know. But then she went home to go tell Alicia, and Alicia was like very, very hesitant about it. Always follow your first instinct. Or maybe she wasn't there, so she's getting secondhand news like, okay, my mother just came back with my cousin, and all of a sudden they're trying to set me up with this guy. And then they finally had a long distance relationship. And then Boo, her husband, came out there and proposed. And then next thing you know, they're married and living in the States. And now they're having marital problems that was shared all last year. But here is where I think is very strategic on Alicia's Kim part as well. Because even though they showed their relationship on YouTube, the fun time, how I got to know their channel was because of some prank or something that YouTube fed through my channel, and then that's how I watched them or whatever. But my mother was the first person, because she watched it also, which I didn't know until we were talking one day about it. But my mother was the first one that figured out that their relationship, what was being displayed on the TV screen, was not 100% true, meaning that my mother was the first one to figure out it had to do with the house. So basically, let me just break down their relationship. Here it is that you have an older gentleman that already have children. He's lived his life, his wild life or whatever. He's now older. How old is he? Is he in his 60s or 70s? Something like that, right? And she's 30. Let me do the math again. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Let me do the math. I should have done. Let's say that she is 32. How old is the difference? Yeah. So he's either in his late 60s or early 70s or mid 70s, somewhere along that line, right? And the man is now looking like, you know what? I'm lonely. I want a good woman to go live out the rest of my life with. I know that's probably what he was thinking. So here he go home to Jamaica, and he just asking the friends casually, you know if any good woman out there? Just like how I would ask, you know any good guy out there? You know what I mean? And then the woman come back with her daughter, and then they have a relationship. And then they have trouble in the relationship. But here's the key thing that they never told us till later on. At least she did. She's coming to America to live with her husband, but the husband already has his life set up where he's living with another family member. Now, I bring this up because I noticed that there's a few people in my church, the guys, that they're looking my way like they like me. And one of the guys live with two of his sisters, right? One of the sisters don't drive, right? So the guy is like driving around his sisters. They're very sweet family. But I'm thinking, because every woman think about every scenario. If I marry him, I get with him, how is our relationship going to look? How is this going to look? How is that going to look? Am I wrong, ladies? You do think about all of that, right? So here I am thinking, let's say I get with this guy and I marry this guy, right? How is that going to look to the sisters? Is he a main provider for their house in which they live? Do they expect me to come live in their house? Is the man going to live in my? I think about everything, guys. So this is why it comes down to communication as well. So it's like, okay, if the guy come and live with me, what's going to happen to their sisters? Can they afford to live by themselves? Like, what's the situation here? What was the agreement here? Da 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 da. So I say all of that to say that Boo was living with a family member, the same as this man at my church. You get what I'm trying to say? The same situation. So Alicia knew about this, but maybe he sold her on, oh yeah, yeah, I believe in your dreams and we're gonna live and we're gonna move out eventually and we have an understanding. But you know what I think happened? I think the relative got jealous of the success of their YouTube channel, and then there was more friction and more problems, right? So not only do you have an age gap difference, now you have family member issues, now you have children issues, now you have finances issues, because maybe the men, I find that a lot of men, they're so used to being the breadwinner, or a lot of men are not used to the woman being more successful than them. But they don't understand, you're a couple. It's all going in the same bank account. It's all going to help your household. Why are you jealous? If anything, you should be encouraging each other. So like I said, I can talk more and more and more about Alicia Kim and her husband Boo, because it's not about the birds like what people say. Yes, it was about the house. Now they're probably heading for divorce. I think it was all play on words at the beginning. I think it was very strategic and manipulative to some degree until all of her followers turned on her, the majority of them. Some of them are still for her. Listen, at the end of the day, when we put stuff out, I say we because I'm also a content creator. So whether it's Anna Nicole, whether it's Terry McMillan, whether it's the Bonics, whether it's Alicia Kim and Boo, whether it's the lady that I met, whether it's my maternal grandparents who are deceased, once it gets out, where is the lady in the Love Show? Once it gets out to people outside of your family, or even sometimes to your family, people are going to talk. The thing is that, are you strong enough to handle the feedback? And that's the thing. And you cannot let your mate take all the blame or all the feedback, all the backlash by themselves. This is part of a relationship. You know what I mean? But yeah, I can talk more about Alicia Kim and Boo because, it was kind of hilarious to me, especially when he came on and did a video showing his trophies and explaining about the birds and how they led people to believe that it was about the birds. Like they're having marital relationship because he loves his birds more than her. No, that was never the case. That was never the case. I think a lot of it has to do with what I'm about to discuss right now, what women go through and what men go through. So let's break it down. I feel that as a woman, especially, I'm going to do older and younger. When you're an older woman marrying a younger guy, first of all, you got to think about children. You got to think about, especially if you don't have children, you got to think about, man, this man is going to want a child. And if he doesn't get it from me, he'll probably get it from someone else. And there are some women out there and there are some men out there that actually don't want kids. And that's fine. But what if he does? I think a lot of people say they do have the conversations, and then when they get into the relationship or marriage, they think that the other person will change their mind. And that's where some conflict comes into play. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's the children aspect. Whether you're younger or whether you're older. I think when you're a younger woman and you're fertile, you don't have a problem. It's just that if your husband is way older, you're going to be doing a lot of the raising yourself, because the guy's probably working or taking care of other finances. But when you're an older woman, the clock is ticking, So then it's like once you're past 40, actually once you're past 35, they actually recommend, that you don't. But there are women from all races that they do go up to their 50s, probably even 60, a rare. And then they scare you by telling you that if you go higher in your 50s and 60s to have a child, the chances of the child coming out with a mental disability is a high probability. So all of that, and even for yourself, because then you got to think about high blood pressure, preeclampsia, you got to think about if you have diabetes and other issues. You got to think about, oh gosh, when the kids are a teenager, how old you are when you give birth. Oh, there's so much you got to think about. But I think for a woman, they just want to have a baby for the man to say that in our marriage, I gave you a child. I think that is a hard one for the women to swallow, especially if they are older. You know what I mean? As far as the women, I'll use Alicia Kim as an example. Here it is. She is a vibrant young woman. She has a great personality, and she's very strategic. I won't say cunning. I would say strategic. She's very strategic as far as she knows what she wants, and she strategically goes and get it. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys. Nothing wrong at all. However, I don't think, from my opinion, that her husband is 100% on board, or maybe he is, or maybe he... And here is the thing also. I've discussed this before, a couple of episodes ago. What do you do? I think I was talking about Wendy Williams. What do you do if you are the breadwinner as a woman, and then your husband is not, but you try to bring him into your business, and then, a whole bunch of other stuff happens? So what I noticed with a lot of YouTubers is that for the Murillo twins and other family members that I see, their mother, their brother, the brother girlfriend, the cousin, everybody has a camera and everyone has their own channel. So therefore, no one could be jealous. You go out there, you make a name for yourself also. Sometimes it will take off, sometimes it won't, but at least you have the same opportunity. You know what I mean? So I think for the younger woman like Alicia, it's like, I can see that she wants more, if that makes sense. She's happy that she's growing. She's happy, but sometimes the men may not understand that growth, or maybe, like I said, you both have to be on the same page, going in the same direction. Here it is. She's younger and may want to have kids, but here it is. Her husband already had a vasectomy. What do you do? What do you do if your husband cannot have any more kids? He doesn't want to have any more kids. So then do you dish out all those thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to have a reversal? Because only a few people I've known have done a reversal, and now you still have to pay for in vitro. And as an older man who's stuck in his ways, does he want to go through all that hassle? Does he? When in his mind, he's probably thinking, I already have kids and now I'm a grandfather. All of that comes into play when you have a big age gap, Then you got to think about it, whether you are a young woman and your man is older. You're now a caretaker. What if you're you really love each other and he's getting older and then there's health problems? You're now the caretaker. So now you got to take care of him physically, mentally, everything. And then it could be the reverse as well. If you're an older woman, sickness can happen to anyone at any time. Let's put it like that. Now you got to think about that. Now as a woman, it doesn't matter what age you are, you got to upkeep yourself. You know what I mean? Because there's always competition. There's always someone lurking around. People don't want your man until they see the man in a relationship or you in a relationship. You all know how that goes. You know what I mean? But you got to make yourself upkeep and presentable. Because for a man, they want a trophy wife. And for a woman, she just wants a good looking man. And for a woman point of view, she wants freedom. Listen, as that girl was talking to me earlier today, I just said to her, there's no way no man is going to control me like that. I'm sorry. I would have get up there and bounce, meaning that I would have get up and left, you know? But for her, she was in a difficult situation because there's kids involved. And I said to her, you're going to have to strategically plan that out. You know what I mean? But to each his own. But from a man's perspective, let's say it's a younger man married to an older woman like the Bonics. You know what I mean? It's like, does he want kids because she already have a kid? What do you do? Maybe she can't have any. I don't know if she can have more kids or not. And a lot of people don't want to do surrogate, which technically it will still be his sperm, but the woman will miss out on carrying. But it's all psychological, and at the end of the day, what is the goal? Is the goal to have a baby? Or, oh my goodness, there's so many things to talk about. And so if the man is older, does he want kids? That's something that you need to discuss, you know? Because I've heard of Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. They're up in age and they still gave their woman girlfriends babies as old as they are. They still want to continue on that legacy. So I think from a man's point of view, it's like, look at me. I'm still strong. I'm still producing, you know, however, which way they did it, whether it's natural or in vitro or whatever, they still provided a child or children for their spouse. I think it's easier for a guy. Then you got to think about, from a man's point of view, their stamina. You know what I mean? Let's face it. As you get older, a lot of things are not going to work as well as they did when you were younger. So if you're an older guy and you have health issues or whatever, what kind of health vitamins or what are you going to help? What's going to help you to lift it up, if you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And then you got to think about the finances. You know what I mean? From a young man's point of view, you don't have a job or you're not making as much money as your woman, especially if you're younger and the woman is older. You know what I mean? It's like, what do? Is your woman pressuring you to make more money? Or is the woman happy that the fact that you just have a job, any job? What is the job? Is the job going to take you far away? Oh my goodness, you know? And then, of course, there's jealousy. A lot of men can't deal when the woman looks good and she's attractive and, you know, she is intellectually stimulated by other men. What do you do when you're not bringing it to the table? I bring up all of this to say that there's no ill talk in what I'm saying. You know, these are just points that come to me. This is just my opinion, you know, but these are questions I need to ask you all. Will you date someone if there's a huge age gap? Comment down below and let me know. How much of an age gap are you willing to go? Share your stories on YouTube, or you can post the comments on the podcast, on any podcast app. There is a section for comments as well, if you'd like to hear more about this. Because at the end of the day, guys, you fell in love with that other person. There was something about that other person that you liked. There was something about that other person that you felt that could make it work. Let me tell you something. It doesn't matter what the age gap is. It could be 1 year, could be 6 months, could be a day or whatever. Any relationship is hard work. So I commend Alicia Kim and Boo, the Bonics, you know, Terry McMillan, all those people. Even though they gave it a try, they took a chance. They took a chance on love. What are the rest of us doing? Are we taking that chance and saying that we did it? We went out there and we gave our best and we did it wholeheartedly, knowing that we love the other person. But like I said, a lot of stuff is noise. A lot of stuff is insequential. You guys need to sit down as a couple and talk about the important things. You know what I mean? You got to think about the important things and be honest with each other. You know, I don't want to see a relationship where where I'm watching like the husband is taking the cooking oil or taking the bed or whatever. Was it really your bed, or was it the relative bed? You know what I mean? There's so many hidden stories and so many different things. I don't want to hear about, oh, the woman didn't know how to cook and I know how to cook. The woman doesn't know how to clean, or the man doesn't know how to clean. It all comes down to getting to know the person. You can know the person for years, but once you live with a person, it's a whole different ball game. And with any marriage and with any relationship, there is some time. There is some time needed and some grace needed to get to know each other and to get to know each other's habits. You think you're going to meet a person and go live with them and everything is going to be happy and there's not going to be not a conflict or a disagreement or whatever, a discussion? No. There are going to be things that irk you about the person. There are going to be things that you like, oh my goodness. When my son chew chips, oh my gosh, just the noise alone annoy me. This is just my son eating chips. So can you imagine that you're in a relationship and maybe it's somebody chewing their food? Maybe it's somebody clipping their toenails. It's something, but it's voicing your opinion, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's like, is this really important for me to be arguing about? Is this something important for me to mention? Choose your battles. I wish everyone success in love in their relationship. It doesn't matter what age difference it is. Being in a relationship and being married is hard work. And you need to ask yourself, both of you, am I willing to go all the way? Because I know at the end of the day, you and I are going to grow old together. We're out here watching your stories and your information because you put it out there. People are going to draw opinions. And if you're not honest and straightforward and you're given like conflicting information, of course people are going to question you more. But at the end of the day, you could be putting your information out there, but as long as you're transparent and tell people, I don't want to talk about this part. It's not everything that you should be sharing with people anyway. You know what I mean? And but the important thing is that if you two are putting out your information together, the two of you should be going through the hard times together. And the two of you should be backing each other up together. In other words, you're in it together. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I commend you all for taking that chance to love somebody regardless of their age. Because after all, I am a hopeless romantic. Until next time, guys, peace, love. Bye.